What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Inside Inter Miami. I'm your host, Andre Fernandez, joined as always by my co-host, Michelle Kaufman. We are back from a wild week, and I mean a wild week on and off the field for Inter Miami. That included the suspension of Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba because they did not attend the MLS All-Star game. They get suspended soon after. MLS does not let them play in that crucial matchup against Cincinnati. But Miami finds a way to squeak out a point, which was important for the long-term effort, for their long-term efforts to win the MLS Cup this year. At the same time, a happy occasion as they signed Rodrigo de Paul and introduced him to the fans before that game against Cincinnati. So we'll talk a lot about that, but mainly get a lot of reaction on the having about it. We'll talk a little bit about we'll dive into it. We'll dive into how this could have been prevented from a league standpoint, what could have been done differently, and we'll talk about Rodrigo de Paul, the aforementioned Argentine superstar and good friend of Ken immediately. This team will have some reaction about that, and look ahead to the Leagues Cup, which, as you're watching this, began already on Tuesday night. For Inter Miami, it begins Wednesday night as they take on Atlas in their first of three opening phase games. Phase one, I think they're calling it. We'll talk about the new format with the Leagues Cup as well. But let's start with the hot topic in MLS and the soccer world, the suspension of Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba. A lot of ripple effects with this one, Michelle.
Yeah, and it was a crazy day because Javier Mascherano spoke on Friday morning and said that Messi and Alba were available for the game, that they rested all week and they returned to practice on Friday. They had their proper rest and that they would be available for the game on Saturday. He was asked, have you heard anything about any suspensions, because they both skipped the All-Star game on the previous Wednesday night? He said, no, we haven't heard anything. So if they're available, they're going to play. So, okay. So everyone's thinking, well, I guess they're not going to suspend them. They're going to get to play. And then about 2 hours later, MLS puts out a statement that neither of those two players are going to be available for the game against Cincinnati because they did not attend the All-Star game. And the rule that everybody knew says that if the only two ways that you can get out of playing in the All-Star game or attending the All-Star game is if you are injured and there's a medical, reason that you didn't go, or if you get a league exemption. Well, apparently Inter Miami contacted them on the day of the game, which, that did not sit well with the league, that if they were going to sit out and rest and not play, and that was the plan, then they probably should have told them before the day of the All-Star game. So all of a sudden it's the day of the All-Star game, and they announced that, that they're not going to be available and they're not going to play. So anyway, it turned into quite a controversial, heated day, and I understand it because I can see both sides. We talked last week, Andre, about how both of us, I think, feel that the All-Star games, we're not big fans of All-Star games, not only in this league, but in other leagues as well in the United States. The players don't want to get injured. They don't play hard. Some of the players don't want to play in it at all. In the case of MLS, they're shoehorning it in on a Wednesday in the middle of a packed summer schedule. These players were, not just Inter Miami, but other teams too that had players in the All-Star game. They're playing on a Saturday, many of them on the road. Then all of a sudden they're supposed to fly to Austin, Texas for a skills challenge and a game on Wednesday. And then immediately next day, flying back to their hometowns and get ready in 1 day and a half for another game. And in many cases are traveling again to another game. It's really too much. It's really too much. It's not worth it. Right. So we discussed that, but that is on the schedule. At least as of this year, there was an All-Star game. It was Wednesday night. The other All-Stars found a way to be there. And the two guys from Miami just said, nah, Now, Supposedly, it was a club decision. It was a club decision. It was not just the players themselves. They decided as a club that they had this crucial game against Cincinnati coming up. They've been playing a lot of games. Lionel Messi has been playing 90 minutes for 20 games in a row. He needed a break. They took a break.
Well, they got the
And I
break.
think they thought they got the break. I think they thought, honestly, that there's no way that they're going to suspend Lionel Messi from a crucial game against Cincinnati. That was going to affect Apple, attendance, whatever. I really think that maybe they thought that they weren't going to be suspended, but they were.
They were. And it's interesting because then you look at the flip side of that, like we're talking about this thing being like shoehorned in and the crazy schedule. Look at Cincinnati. Evander, their superstar, not only played, was named the captain, won. I think he won the skills challenge, or he had a great performance in it. Then plays in the game against Miami. Then, of course, Miami shuts out Cincinnati, and he doesn't end up scoring in the game that I'm sure he really would have wanted to more than anything else. But here's one of the league's young stars, and he goes through the whole gauntlet. He plays in the whole thing. And meanwhile, then, of course, they want the big headliner. They want Messi to be in there, but then this happens. So, I mean, again, yeah, not to rehash too much of what we talked about last week, but I feel like I'm always a fan of all-star teams, not so much all-star games. And some people are like, well, what if he did it at the end of the season? At the end of the season, they're not going to want to play in it either.
They're not going to want to play either. They're going to be ready. They're done.
They're getting ready for the next thing.
They will have been playing for 10 months. They will have been playing for 10 months. They're not going to,
so
hey, stick around for a few more days so you can go play against the other all-stars. There's going to be no incentive whatsoever. At the end of the season, they are done. That's like a kid on the last day of school. You know, when school is over and that final bell rings,
you're out.
They're gone. They're out. They're out for vacation.
You're running out the door if you can.
They're running out the door, and these players are too, by the way, at the end of their season. This is a very long, complicated season. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I could see both sides. I do think that we're going to have some comments here from Jorge Mas, the managing owner of the team, and Javier Mascherano. They were very, very, very upset and said that Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba were very upset. Let's hear from Jorge Mas about what he had to say about this whole mess.
So you all know I'm Jorge Mas, the owner of Inter Miami, and I want to take the time today to address the recent announcement of the suspension of Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba for the game tomorrow against Cincinnati, based on their non-attendance to the MLS All-Star game this past Wednesday in Austin. And I want to first of all reiterate that Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba are the consummate professionals. As I said on multiple occasions, Lionel Messi is a competitive beast who only wants to win and play games and represent his club and this league with honor and dignity, as he has, throughout his career. During the course of this year, we have to date played already 33 games. I consider each and every game that Inter Miami plays an all-star game for obvious reasons. And I want to today express, our full support, both to Lionel and to Jordi, as a decision for them to sit this week was a decision made by the club. And I think that's an important point. They were coming off a run of 9 games in 35 days. Hard games. The last 2 games previous to this Wednesday were games on the road. On Wednesday at Cincinnati, on Saturday in New York. We're facing a game tomorrow, and we're facing a course of 10 games over the next 34 days. There is a rule in the MLS, which if they miss the All-Star game, they're suspended for 1 game. I believe it's a bad rule, but it's a rule nonetheless. And it's a bad rule because I think it puts the players in an untenable position to have to choose between participating in an all-star festivity, which at the end is an exhibition match, or choosing a game, a regular season game that I think matters. And I admire both Lionel and Jordi for always thinking of club first. Lionel and Jordi would have been faced, with either missing a game in New York, which was an amazing display of football skills by our team and by Lionel Messi, which rounds have made around the world, then participate in the All-Star game in order to be able to play against Cincinnati. having to put a player in a position to have to choose. And again, the ones that get penalized are the club, the fans, sponsors, TV, Apple, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that the punishment for the rule is frankly draconian. And I think that, for one reason or another, it served its purpose for many years in the MLS. But I think, and I allude to what the commissioner said in his statement, that the rule needs to be looked at.
Okay, so we know how Jorge feels. He was pretty livid when he came on to this conference call. It was a hastily called. The MLS made their announcement, and literally within half an hour or so, Jorge Mas was calling a press conference. He wanted to address it. He wanted to express support for the two players and to say that it was a club decision. And like he said, he's draconian. He said that this rule is a draconian rule, that needs to change. And Javier Mascherano feels the same way. He was very, very upset. He said, he understands that the MLS game is something nice that we do here in the United States and everything, but to penalize those two guys and then to penalize their team for them not to be able to play against Cincinnati was it did not sit well with anybody in that front office. Let's hear what Masche had to say. Oh no, we're hearing first from Jorge Mas had more to say. Before we hear from Javier Mascherano, we have more from Jorge Mas. He's not done yet. Let's hear more from Jorge.
They were communicated a few hours ago when it was confirmed. The reaction was as expected. It wasn't obviously was not a positive reaction. They want to compete. They want to play games. That's what they're here for, to play and win. They understand the magnitude of tomorrow's night's game. So no, the reaction was exactly as expected out of two competitive players who don't understand the decision, who don't understand, why not attending an exhibition match leads directly to a suspension. The rule is what it is, but they don't understand it. As I said before, I don't agree with the rule. I have made my thoughts known to the commissioner, very plainly. I think the rule it is going to change, but that's neither here nor there. But their reaction was as I expected, and they were extremely upset, both of them. Listen, I think the fact how it's scheduled, I understand schedule congestion, but we have to find a way where the All-Star game gives players some time before and or after. There are, I believe, 6 games this evening of Major League Soccer. That is less than 48 hours since playing in an All-Star game. That's untenable, and not right and not fair to the players and the clubs that sent players to the All-Star game. So, the ideal situation would be that either before or after the All-Star game, as Javier Mascherano said this morning, the players have some days off so that they can enjoy their time at an All-Star game. Because ultimately it is, it's an exhibition, but it should be something enjoyable among players in Major League Soccer.
I agree fully that if they are going to have an All-Star game, which Don Garber did seem to suggest that, in some comments that he made, the league really likes having an All-Star game, and all the executives come to town and they have meetings and like they do in other leagues. If they are going to have an All-Star game, they need to make it an All-Star week where it's off, where there's an off weekend in the calendar, and let everybody have the full week. That's All-Star week, and then the All-Star game replaces the regular season games that weekend. Do you agree with that?
Look,
that's what I think they should do.
I think this is a simple thing. You either have it or you don't have it, or if not, you have an All-Star break. Because you're saying exactly what I was about to say. Baseball. This is what baseball does. Baseball literally calls it an All-Star break. They carve out 4 days in the middle. Obviously, baseball is different because you can play every day, but on that same kind of scale, they carve out 4 days, and this is the break for everyone to have a moment, catch your breath, play in it if you want to, whatever. And then the other thing is that you don't see MLB doesn't start suspending guys. I mean, sometimes the guys back out because of injuries, But they don't start suspending guys because they're like, oh, guess what? Teams tell them, I've got this guy slated to pitch right before the All-Star game. They don't say, oh, well, too bad. You have to remove him or else. So you don't have that rule either on that part of it as well. Or the NFL doesn't suspend if you back out of the Pro Bowl and things like that. Like, to me, it's like the rule, I get it because they're hesitant to get away from it because they're afraid more and more people are just going to say, screw it, I don't want to play in this thing. But I think the bigger issue is not having the break because, of course, no one would want to play in this thing right now when you have 1 day in, 1 day out practically to do it. If you had a week, like you're saying, then it's like, okay, I could carve some time out to do this.
Give it a week. They should call it All-Star break.
Right.
And then the whole league gets a break one weekend. There are no league games. It is the All-Star game. And all of the attention that week is gearing up to the All-Star game, to this game. And then all the players have that whole week to rest. The ones who are selected for the All-Star game go and spend the weekend with their families or whatever at the All-Star game, have a good time. But to cram it in the way they did was wrong. And, to suspend those two guys, I understand. It's a rule. Inter Miami has to follow the rules just like everybody else, even though Jorge Mas says we are an all-star game. Basically, our team is an all-star team. Every time we go play, fans are getting to see an all-star game. That is true. Let's face it. This team is an all-star team, but there are rules and they got to follow the rules. But apparently, I mean, I heard that, Messi was really, really mad. I mean, we know how competitive he is. He was very angry to miss that Cincinnati game. And
they're getting ready to play a game that could end up proving crucial down the road. If they lose this, I mean, and fortunately for them, the silver lining was that they ended up with a draw, at least something. If they lose that game, they're 10 points back. And I'm not saying it's over, but odds are you could kiss that supporter shield goodbye at that point because you're in a big rut at that. I mean, they still have games in hand and whatnot, but you never know. You never know how damaging that could have been. But going back to the other thing, I think again, it's the time. The logistic problem is going to be, and they're going to say that the season is too long already, which is their own fault for cramming all these little tournaments in and doing all these, inventing the Leagues Cup and doing the money grabs and all that. Their off season is barely anything. So that's going to be the other complaint. If you say, oh, now we have to carve out another week just to fit this All-Star game in.
We'll see.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. So they had to miss the game and let's hear about Javier Mascherano. Let's hear the last thing about this whole controversy. Let's hear what the coach had to say.
Con respecto a lo de Leo, mira, no me gusta opinar sobre decisiones o pensamientos de otras personas. Lo que sí me resulta extraño es que un día, digamos, se diga una cosa un día y al otro día se tome otra decisión completamente diferente, porque todos lo escuchamos, lo que se dijo, de que era entendible, de lo que venía, de la cantidad de partidos que venía jugando. Nosotros no perdimos que se trate diferente. Ahora yo hago una consulta. ¿Qué pasa si el partido de hoy era de visitante? ¿Hubiesen pedido también que Leo no juegue? Porque para llenar estadios y hacer taquilla, ahí nadie se queja, ¿eh? Lo que pasa es que este partido tocó de local. Ahí está el tema. Con eso se la dejo a ustedes también.
Okay. Javier Mascherano, he does not mince words. He's very dramatic.
I hadn't heard that word in a long time. I hadn't heard that word taquilla. I hadn't heard that word taquilla in a long time.
But he basically said, for those who don't have he said, I don't like to. He always says, I don't like to criticize anybody, but when people, I don't want to say anything, but he said, I don't want to criticize anybody, but he said, I'm just wondering if our game had been a road game. Do you think they would have asked Messi? Would they have suspended him? Because when it comes to filling stadiums and selling tickets, they don't seem, they definitely want Messi there to fill stadiums and to sell tickets. This one happened to be a home game. He said, I'm just wondering, I'm going to leave that with you to think about and to ponder. If that had been a road game, would they have suspended him? So he's, he's definitely questioning the league's decision there.
Motives.
So
Yep. The league's
a lot of
motives.
things going on, league's motive. So anyway, basically,
Yep.
let's face it, Inter Miami is the team that the rest of the league hate. I mean, I'm not saying the league office, but I'm saying Miami is kind of the team that the other teams kind of resent, and because they have all
Yeah.
these stars and they do
They're
things that other
the
teams don't do.
Look, they're the rock
And it's
stars.
Miami.
They're the rock stars, and they haven't won a championship yet. So they get all this attention, and that adds to the resentment that they're not even.
Yeah, there's resentment.
quote
They haven't
unquote.
won the title.
Yeah,
They get more attention than the teams that do win the title here. They
right.
get more attention than LA Galaxy and the Crew, these teams that have won titles, and all they've won so far is they won a Leagues Cup and Supporters Shield, which is,
Yeah,
nothing to
it's
sneeze
like,
at,
it's
but
okay with big
they
whoop.
haven't. Yeah, so there's definitely resentment around the league, and I think that Don Garber and the league were under a lot of pressure, I'm sure, from the rest of the league to suspend
Well,
those two guys,
I-
because
I'm-
otherwise
yeah,
all the other owners are saying, hey, sorry, we know that Messi's Messi and he's a god and he's a
right.
goat, but look, our guys made the effort. All the other owners, I'm sure, were saying, or a lot of them, I'm sure, we're saying our players also are, playing a million games, not as many as Miami.
Right.
Miami has played 10 more than the other teams, but you could say Seattle and LAFC were
Yeah.
also in Club World Cup, and
Yeah.
those teams had players in the All-Star game, and guess what? They got on planes and they went to the All-Star game. So
Well,
I think there was a lot of pressure on the league to suspend them.
I think, and that's why I brought up the example earlier about Evander, how he went, not only played, he played in the skills competition, he played in the game,
skills competition,
and went on the road to come down to Fort Lauderdale with the team to play in the game. Just 3 days later, whatever. So
right. So imagine what the Cincinnati owners thinking. The Cincinnati people are saying. Yeah.
The optics of how it would have looked for them to look the other way because it was Messi. And I think off camera, I even mentioned that to you. I'm like, since he's going to be pissed if this doesn't go, and they're allowed to play Saturday, or if they were like to postpone it and like they appeal it, and then the suspension doesn't happen till later. Whatever the case would have ended up being, that if they would have not done it this way, you would have had the ripple effect the other way, which is understandable. Right. The optics of it wouldn't have looked good. Like, oh, it's Messi, so he's going to get away with it. So he's going by his own set of rules. So there's like with everything, there's both sides of it to look at. So
there's both sides. And, as far as Messi goes, I mean, yeah, a lot of these players coming from Europe and from the biggest leagues, they don't understand, like, what is, this all-star game? It's meaningless. It's an exhibition game and this and that. But you know what? When you sign up to play in MLS, it's part of MLS. It's part of what they do here. And things are a little different, just like the way athletes deal with the media here. I mean, there are things in American sports that are different from how they are around the world, rightly or wrongly, whether, MLS now is talking about switching the calendar to be more in line with the European calendar. As of now, MLS plays a different calendar, across a different part of the year than most of the rest of the world. The athletes in this country speak to the media all the time, which is not the case around the world. We have all-star games, which is not the case around the world. So there are some
unique. We have playoffs.
We have playoffs.
They
exactly. There's no promotion relegation. There's playoffs. Right. You don't just win when you finish at the top of the table. So MLS still is different from other leagues around the world. And one of those differences, whether you like it or not, and I personally don't like it that much, they have an all-star game. And that's the rule. If you get picked for the all-star game, you're supposed to play. And if you don't, you get suspended. So I have a feeling that rule will change. Maybe the schedule will change. Something will change because of this messy mess. But anyway, we're going to move on now. We're done with the Messi suspension.
No, the Messi stuff.
But it was but everyone has opinions on it. And I'll be curious for those of you that are watching and on YouTube, if you want to share your opinions, we'd love to hear your comments. Post your comments at the bottom, what you think. Should they have been suspended or not? And why?
Yep.
Okay.
And on the
Would
brighter
love to
side,
hear from you.
we'd love to hear from you for sure. And on the brighter
Yeah.
side of things for the team, Rodrigo de Paul gets introduced right before the game, and he's here now after weeks of the worst kept secret. We pretty much knew it was going to happen. It finally is official. It's out there. What kind of impact can he make instantly on this team, which now transitions into Leagues Cup play?
Yeah, they had a big ceremony, which we have some photos of. There he is. There he
There you
is
go.
with the two Mas brothers, with Jorge and with his two children, coming onto the field, looking, in his stylish Rodrigo de Paul way. He's got earrings dangling. He's got necklaces dangling. He's got his shirt opened up, his big poofy pants. This is a guy. First of all, I want to say that it also was a shame that Messi didn't get to play when his best friend was introduced. This was
Yeah.
the big Rodrigo de Paul unveiling, and one of his very closest friends and teammate on the Argentina national team had to sit there, although they got to sit together.
I was
They
going to
got to
say they
sit
got to sit
together.
together. Yeah.
They did get to sit together. They shared mate, by the way.
Of
They
course they
shared some
did.
mate. They had all their kids were there together. He's part of the La Familia now. He's
Mhm.
part of the whole Argentine familia mate drinking, messy,
Pink and black. Wearing the pink. Wearing the black.
wearing the
Yep.
pink and black with all his friends. Rodrigo de Paul it's really a great signing, to be honest. This is a guy who is 31 years old. He's at his prime. He's one of the top midfielders right now that was playing in the game, playing in Europe, playing Atletico Madrid. He's a World Cup defending World Cup champion. So you've got a guy who just won the last World Cup. He's a key member of the Argentine national team. He links together with Messi. They're very close friends. Like I said, they know each other back and forth on the field. He knows exactly where Messi's going to be and what Messi likes and how Messi likes the ball delivered. He's also an enforcer. They call him Messi's bodyguard. We know that Messi already has the big muscular bodyguard. He's got another bodyguard now on the field. So as far as on the field, it's a great signing. He's going to be signed through 2029. So this is a long-term commitment for him to be a face of this team, which we've talked about before, that when Messi retires, if it's at the end of next year, they need big, they need a face of the franchise. They need somebody who's going to be a famous celebrity type player when Messi is gone. And Rodrigo de Paul, he's not Messi. Okay. Nobody's Messi, but he's famous. He's charismatic. He's really into fashion. His girlfriend is a pop star. She's an Argentine singer, just like, David Beckham's wife. So he's got some charisma and personality that I think will serve the team well. Also, I think he's going to be fun for the fans to watch. He's going to be, I think, someone who does talk to the media and is going to be accessible to us. So I think it's going to be great for the fans. I think it's going to be a good addition on the field as well. What do you think?
I think for the long term, it's huge because this isn't a rental. This isn't like some of the times that they've signed somebody and it's just just for now, just for the end of the season. Like this is someone that can hopefully for their sake keep it going. The stadium we've talked about a bunch of times. The stadium is starting to take shape. That's coming.
Yes.
The World Cup's coming. All of that, but he's going to hang, who, number 10, is going to hang his cleats shortly after all of that. And then who carries the franchise into the future? So this is a big move, not just for the short term, but bigger picture for the long term.
Yeah, I think it's a really good long-term. It's a good short-term move because I think they could use him in the midfield, that type of a player.
Definitely.
It is a Benha Kramashi kind of player. Benha has said, and we're going to hear from Benha in a bit, Benha said from way back that of course, all of the Argentine players idolize Messi, but his favorite player, he mentioned many years ago, was Rodrigo de Paul because they play the same position. And that was his idol. And now he's going to get to learn under Rodrigo de Paul. He's going to get to play with his favorite player and learn that position from one of the better players who's played it. So I think it's a really good signing on the field. It is possible that you are going to see him tonight playing in the Leagues Cup opener. They were trying to get his paperwork in order. If the paperworks were in order as far as his visa goes, they're going to try to get him into that game tonight against Atlas. So that would be a huge boost, for this team to have Rodrigo de Paul on the field to open up Leagues Cup. That would give this tournament a lot more pizzazz. And I think that's why when Jorge Mas talks about we are an all-star game, we're giving so much to this league. I do agree that this team, the ownership of Inter Miami, the investments that they've made to bring these star players, they are contributing a lot to the profile of this league of MLS. Every new star that they bring with Messi, Busquets, Alba, Luis Suarez, and now Rodrigo de Paul, all of those guys on one MLS team, they are raising the profile globally of this league. And I think that that's why they sometimes feel they're not going to say we should be treated differently, but they are different. This team is different from the other teams.
That's something to be said, that it's not just they went out and got Messi and surrounded him with a bunch of MLS guys that were already there. They've put together some big names around him that globally are well known. I mean, granted, you've got him up here, but that's natural. He's at another level. But these are no slouches that they put around him, not just even his former Barcelona teammates, but guys like him. I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying. They don't want to break the rules, but at the same time,
Jorge Mas is saying, in the back of his mind, or behind closed doors, I'm sure he's saying, look at what we bring your league. None of the other owners are not taking these bold moves. And Alexi Lalas mentioned it in a story that I read. I put a quote. He said, look, this ownership group, they are doing bold, daring things. They are doing things that other owners aren't doing. And what Alexi said is there's a lot of whining around the league from other clubs and from fans of other clubs saying, oh, MLS, Inter Miami has different rules and they make, there's certain leeway that they get. And what Alexi was saying, instead of whining, why don't these other clubs, there's nothing holding the other clubs back from making these kinds of investments and these kinds of, signings, and they're not doing it. The other teams are not doing it for the most part. LAFC has done some, but most of the league in MLS is not doing it this way. So if the other clubs want to do it the way they do it, that's totally fine. But they shouldn't then complain when Inter Miami is bringing in star after star and saying, hey, why do they get all these stars? You can go get them too. Open up your checkbook and you can get them too.
And it's important too, because not to get, I know we're going along on this today, but you don't want it to turn into a situation kind of like, and I keep using baseball as an example, where the brand name teams are the only ones that bring in top talent or have the means to bring in the top talent, whether it's the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox. Yeah. And then you have all a litany of other teams that just can't get there. Yeah, step up, because MLS, you don't want to, Inter Miami's doing it. Like you said, there's a handful of others that have a globally known name. LAFC is one of them, but there's many that don't. And I think one of the reasons is because so many of these franchises in MLS are still relatively young, because this league boomed from, 14, 16 teams to 30 in a short amount of time. But still, it can, little by little. I think what Alexi Lalas is saying makes sense too, and as far as that goes.
And really, to be honest, if you look back at the history of soccer, what happened to the NASL, the reason that the NASL folded is that there was the Cosmos, which was the Inter Miami of that. They had Pelé, they had Beckenbauer. They brought in these huge stars, and the other teams around NASL could not keep up. With the level of money that was being shelled out. And so that league became a league of haves and have-nots. And I think that is when they formed MLS way back when they started in the mid-90s, they didn't want a repeat of NASL. So they made this single entity league, which is what it is now. And there's a lot of parity. So the difference between the first place team and the 10th place team in MLS is not that big as it is in Europe. When you look at the European leagues, whether it be EPL or, Bundesliga, French league, Italian league, Serie A, Liga, La Liga, there's a big gap between the top 4 teams or whatever they're competing for Champions League and then a team that's in 10th place. Whereas in MLS, it's not. And that is the biggest adjustment. Most of the players who come to MLS say, and Javier Mascherano has mentioned it, that, and I know that Phil Neville said it too, maybe this is not the highest quality league, but it is the hardest to win. And 2 different coaches, I've heard them say those exact words. This may not be the league with the highest quality players top to bottom, but it is the hardest to win because there's so much parity, and the difference between the first place team and the 10th or 11th place team is not that much.
Right.
So you don't have any off games. You don't have any easy games. All the games are pretty much against teams that are fairly even in talent.
Yeah. If you go like in Spain, if you go from Real Madrid and Barcelona down to the 8th best team in that league, there's a big gap. I mean, it's a
Big
3
gap. Grand Canyon.
It's a 3 or 4 goal gap in terms of how it usually results on the field.
Right.
The same. I mean, England's one of the few that I think has a little more depth at the top.
Has more
I think
depth.
I've seen it. But same thing. You go from, Man City down to the 15th, 16th team that's struggling to not be relegated. It's a mismatch.
It's a big,
It's a
big mismatch. And here it's not. So I think, Alexi and everyone else saying, look, these other teams, they're complaining about Inter Miami bringing in all these players. How are they doing it? Blah, blah, blah. Well, go do it. Try to do it. If you can't beat them, join them. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Although they are beating them. Right now, they need to win a title, though, to be honest. They're bringing in all these stars. Yeah. They got to win an MLS Cup with all these players now, with Rodrigo de Paul. I'm sorry, but this team, with this lineup that they have, and they already had a payroll of $42 million, which was by far the biggest payroll in the league. You've got to win the MLS Cup. I really think they have to win the MLS Cup.
Well, I think the perfect example of that parity you're talking about is the fact that a team like San Diego FC is winning the Western Conference right now.
Yes.
An expansion team.
An expansion team is in first place.
And that just shows you. That just shows you that whole parity thing we were talking about just now. But you look at one thing I don't want to get overshadowed completely on this show is the fact that Inter Miami got a draw despite Messi, despite Alba, despite no Oscar Ustari once again, which we know he's going to be out for a little bit.
Big loss, yeah.
Maxi Falcone was out because of yellow cards. Benha was starting in the back, but he normally doesn't. So all of that, and they get a clean sheet, which is a rarity for them.
Yes. So. No, that was it. We should not. Yes. Let's remember that was a big result for them, to be honest, to get a scoreless draw, missing 4 starters, missing the starting goalkeeper, missing Maxi Falcone, having Benha playing left back, which he had never played in his entire life. He's never played left back. They put him at left back, and Javier Mascherano mentioned that, he really likes Benha's versatility, and they want to groom him as a player who's versatile, because now, especially Rodrigo de Paul is coming in. That's the position Benha plays. If Benha's going to get minutes, he's going to have to fill in other places.
Yeah.
But that 0-0 draw was good, huh? Yeah,
you don't want poor Benha to get squeezed out by his hero, coming in and he loses his spot, ironically enough. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, the 0-0 draw against Cincinnati, against a team that was in first place. They got to they're still in 5th place, but they're still within reach, and they have 3 games in hand. We keep mentioning it. They still have 3 games in hand. Well, they have 3 more games to play than everybody else.
It's big because think about it. They have 9. They really have 9 points in hand to go get.
Yes,
and
they have
the
9
top
points
spot
to get.
And the top spot is still 8 behind. Philadelphia right now is the first one to 50, and then Cincinnati 49 to 42 is the gap there. Nashville's at 47. Columbus is at 44. So conceivably, it's there as long as they win enough games and win those 3 that'll make the difference. So they're still within striking distance is the point. Would a loss have totally crippled them? No, but it would have been more damaging, because then they would have been further behind, and then you lose that little bit of cushion that you have with those games in hand by a couple of points there. So
But of course, as usual, we
yeah.
can't, now that we're getting excited about the league, nope, we got to stop right now.
Well, let's hear
Stop right
from
there.
before you do. Let's hear from Benha. Speaking of Benha and Mascherano, I
We're
think
going
we
to
had
hear
a
from
clip
Benha
ready
and
to go for that.
Mascherano.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Buenos días, Benjamín y Javier. Tengo una pregunta para cada uno. Javier, si para mañana están listos Messi y Jordi Alba, y tus valoraciones, si has podido estudiar al equipo de Gonzalo Pinela del Atlas.
Si no me lo suspenden, sí, salvo que no haya otra suspensión.
Otra competencia, no sé si ya se metieron en problemas, ¿no?
Bueno, qué sé yo.
Bueno. Y para Benjamín, Benja, hace años, me hace sentir vieja, pero hace años, con la primera vez que hablábamos con vos, cuando estabas en la academia, nos contabas que Rodrigo de Paul era tu ídolo. ¿Qué significa para vos que ahora vas a compartir vestuario, vas a jugar con él y tener esa oportunidad? Muchas gracias.
Sí, a Rodrigo siempre, desde que llegó a Europa o incluso un poco más adelante de su carrera, lo empecé a seguir. Era un jugador donde juega en mi posición y puedo relacionar mucho con su juego. Es alguien que corre todo el partido, que mete mucho y bueno, siempre lo admiré de esa manera. Así que nada, tenerlo al lado ahora va a ser lindo. Ojalá conocerlo un poco más en estos días, poder entrenar con él, aprender de él. Al final del día es un campeón del mundo, así que vamos a aprender de él. Y bueno, la verdad que ya compartiendo vestuario con los jugadores que tenemos y que se suma uno más, va a ser lindo para poder aprender y crecer como jugador.
Por acá, por favor.
¿Qué tal?
Perdona, ¿cuál era la otra? ¿Atlas? Atlas. Bueno, un equipo que inició relativamente bien el campeonato mexicano, con una victoria, un empate y bueno, en la última jornada le tocó perder con Monterrey. Un equipo muy dinámico, incómodo, suele hacer marcaje individual y personal, algo que nos hemos encontrado en estos últimos partidos, sobre todo algo muy parecido a lo que nos hizo Montreal en los 2 partidos de MLS. No sé si lo harán mañana, pero bueno, hemos preparado el partido para jugar de diferentes maneras según lo que haga Atlas. Después, sobre todo, te vuelvo a repetir, la realidad es que ha tenido un comienzo bueno y sobre todo un equipo que es muy, muy dinámico, no necesita demasiado de la construcción del juego para hacerte daño, bastante directo, así que es un rival a tener en cuenta, a respetarlo y bueno, ojalá que nosotros podamos tener un buen comienzo, podamos sobre todo seguir sosteniendo el buen nivel del equipo que ha mostrado sobre todo en estos últimos 2 meses, ¿no?
All right, so first Ben has, mentioned again that this was his idol, that Rodrigo de Paul is a player that he has idolized for a long time, plays the same position, runs a lot. He expects to learn a lot from him. He's looking forward to getting to know him more and learning from him. And he said, with all of the players that they brought in and bringing in one more of these high-level world elite players, that, they're going to learn a lot from him. And then Javier Mascherano throwing in a little sass, yes, when he was asked, are Messi and Alba going to be available for the game? He said, well, yes, unless they suspend them, So, he had to throw in another little dig at MLS there. But anyway, yeah, he said as far as Atlas goes, which is the opponent they're going to face first, that it's a team that has had a pretty good start to the new Mexican season. They have 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw. They lost to Monterrey in their most recent game. It's a tricky team. He said that they play good man marking. They play a similar style to Montreal, which gave Miami trouble. So he said they are, preparing for a few different types of styles to see what they throw out at them, but that it's a respected, opponent. They hope to get a good start. All 3 games are going to be here at home for Miami. The way that this competition is set up, the 3 phase 1 games, as they call it, the 3 phase 1 games are all played at Chase Stadium. So anyway,
Right.
tell us, Andre, real quick before we close up, about this Leagues Cup. Has a new format, which is a little strange, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
another new wrinkle.
another new
Another new thing that they're
wrinkle,
not doing anywhere around the world.
another new thing. But it's it's still basically, in essence, is the format you see in a World Cup, maybe just a little abbreviated because they only go to quarterfinals, semis, and then the final. Which I'm sure everybody's like, yes, one less round to play. They're going to be happy about the first three being at home for sure. But in a short amount of time, it's all in a week. This game tonight, as everyone's watching and listening to this tonight with Atlas, then another game on Saturday, and then another game next Wednesday. So it's a compressed schedule. Then they go back to MLS play for a little bit, and then should they advance, squeeze in that quarterfinal, semifinal, and final for the rest of August. It looks like until then the stretch run. But on the bright side, for everyone keeping track of how busy their schedule's been, this is it, I believe, as far as like extracurricular tournaments before the potential stretch run to the MLS Cup. But it's important. They need to get as many results as they can to advance out of the pool stage and then get to this quarterfinal round. And I heard also guaranteed to be MLS versus MX teams until the semifinals. That's where it could break apart if more MLS teams make it or if more Mexican League teams make it, and then they'd face the more familiar foes from their respective league. But until the semifinal round, that was another difference that they made, another change that they made.
Yeah,
with
they
this
want to
tournament.
make sure, because otherwise they were playing some of the same teams.
Every
Inter
match.
Miami was playing,
Right.
yeah, MLS teams were playing MLS teams, Mexican teams were playing Mexican teams.
Right.
So what was the point? Now they're definitely guaranteed that
Until the
they're
semis.
playing against Mexican teams until the semis.
Right.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. And I am looking forward to seeing Rodrigo de Paul play with this group, to be reunited with Messi on the field. They I know that Messi is very happy. You could see them drinking mate together at that Cincinnati game. They were yucking it up, laughing. He makes Messi laugh a lot. So it'll be fun to see how he changes the team. What kind of impact can he have right away? I mean, he's only been with this team for a few days. So, can he have an immediate impact? Is it going to take some time for him to adapt to the league, to the style, to the other players? I mean, it's going to be hard for him to just step in mid-season and all of a sudden, have a huge impact, but maybe he will.
Yeah,
I'll be interested to see what he does. Yeah.
This Leagues Cup is good for him to break the ice and get acclimated and all of that stuff. So hopefully,
right.
Yeah, for their sake, hopefully he does play tonight. Hopefully he does get in there, even if he comes in maybe as a sub, let's say, just get in the game, get some minutes, get some running around and get acclimated, get more gelled with your team, your new teammates. Obviously not Messi because you're used to him as much, but hey, get acclimated with everything. And then this team, if they can carry over some of that defensive magic that they had in their last game as well, that would be another huge one, to somehow channel, because that's, like I said, a rare clean sheet for them, as Mascherano had talked about before. This team doesn't shut out anybody, but they did in their last game in a spot where they desperately needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a lot to watch for in the next week. By the time we talk next week, we'll have lots to talk about. Rodrigo have had his debut, and we'll see how they do in their first two Leagues Cup games. They play tonight, and then they play again on Saturday. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week.
Well, thank you for watching Inside Inter Miami. As always, remember you can catch us at YouTube or at MiamiHerald.com, and if you're listening, Spotify, iTunes, whichever podcatcher you tend to use, we're usually on most of them. And until then, I'll check out all our coverage of the Leagues Cup. I'll be covering the first one against Atlas for Michelle. So catch that on MiamiHerald.com, and then Michelle will pick up right after on Saturday and take it the rest of the way after that. So once again, thank you for watching the show, and we hope you enjoy the soccer, everybody.